It's time for Chai and Chat. Chai and Chat.
Hi Sundari, how you doing?
Hey, Ranjit, I'm fine.
Good. One of the things I wanted to talk about today was around Instagram and all these like food stories that we see, you know, like recipes and things. And one of the things I was really interested in, because I've been looking at bread recipes and making bread at home, and then I came across this recipe which was about making easy homemade flatbreads. And I thought,
yes, flatbread, yes.
yeah, I thought, hold on, that's not a flatbread. That's a roti or a chapati. And why are they calling it a flatbread? So I went to the comments and people were saying the same thing, going, I think you meant to say chapati or roti. So for me, there was something around social media and appropriation versus appreciation and Western audiences changing things. And so I thought that's what we could talk about today, if that's okay. So, you know, it's a roti or is it a flatbread?
Right. I mean, because I think in the past, you've mentioned this sort of thing before. And when you said, are we talking about bread today? Obviously, I've got lots of friends who listening on our podcast, and they're very interested in what episodes we're going to do next. So when I said, I'm going to talk about flatbread and a chapati, and one of them sent me this lovely poem, and it's called Ode to a Flatbread. Shall I read that to you?
Yes, please.
Dough making with flour and water, salt and butter calls for kneading in ritualistic candor as parts come together to an irreversible matter. The soft cushion of dough between the palm and the bowl, pliable with every push and shove, stretched and compressed in sheepish conformity, blistered on skillet, puffed up to a chapati, heavens thanked with each bite, for flatbread with savory curry, fills nostrils with soft aromas, relished as heaven on tongue, one is contended of this flatbread. Doesn't that just make you feel hungry?
I think, yes, it's the way you say it as well. It's the way you read it out. You read poems really well. And remember we talked about this before, how some poems I think need to be read out loud and listened to rather than read. So flatbreads.
Absolutely. With this, it is actually, the flatbread, they're using it flatbreads and they're using it synonymously with a chapati. So, you've talked a little about appropriation. So what within yourself you think is an issue with the flatbread?
I think it was how it was presented, and I think we'll talk about when we're younger and food and things and what those things mean. But I don't make chapatis now. I think some people buy them from the shops as well. I think it's like bread in England. People used to make their own bread and then they buy it from shops now. And I guess the same with chapatis. Some people still make them, but many people now buy them in. But I think it's how these recipes get renamed, and I think if it's a Western name, flatbread, it seems more acceptable than if it was a roti or a chapati. What about you? I mean, what are they called in Malaysian? Do you have
similar things. I mean, we never call anything like that a flatbread.
Okay.
What you're describing as a chapati, because I'm from a South Indian background, so we can talk about this a bit later on about sorts of breads or things that we use as carbs as opposed to rice. But we do make chapatis and naan breads. You get them in all the restaurants. But we've never had anything called a flatbread, because interesting for me, when I think of flatbreads, I think of things from the Middle East, from the Levant. I think of those as flatbreads. And also, I'm not that familiar with Middle Eastern cuisine, so I wouldn't be able to tell you which part of the Middle East, which part of the Levant all these sorts of breads come from. That's what I see as a flatbread, not a chapati or a naan bread, because that I would see as being from India or Pakistan, that area. So that's how that's the type of bread that we would have got in Malaysia. Yeah.
But I think one of the good things is that we have all these different options that are available. And when I was younger, and I'm thinking back to the 70s, 80s, our options were quite limited. It was, a white sliced loaf or brown even. But, chapatis, pita breads, flatbreads, all those sort of things were not available in the shops as readily as they are today. So I think that's really, really great, isn't it? I mean, in terms of memories of food growing up, I think one thing for me was that I think it's great now that chapatis and rotis are fashionable or they're acceptable. Because when I was younger, I remember being probably about 8 or 9, and we didn't have any bread, and I had to take sandwiches to school that day. And my mum rolled up a chapati or paratha, I think. And I was like, I'm not taking that to school. Everyone's going to ridicule and laugh at me. And they would have done, because they wouldn't have known what it was. They were like, what's that you're eating? Whereas now it's quite acceptable, isn't it?
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that little story. I mean, I was just thinking when you were talking about, taking food to school, grandmother we would just have white bread,
Okay.
what you'd call not what you, but what they'd call toasting bread here. So it was quite stodgy, and we would just have cheese in it or something like that. Because grandmother, our staple food was rice, so you couldn't really use cooked rice to do that. So it was just easier for grandmother to just make us a sandwich just for we just used to have an 11's break. Remember I think I've said to you previously, in Malaysia, school starts at 7:30 in the morning, and you have 20 minutes at 11's, and then you finish school for 1 o'clock. So you actually come home for lunch, you see.
Yeah.
So sort of a different sort of day arrangement for a school child. Yes. So
Yeah, we used to come home for lunch. That's why occasionally, if we had to stay at school for lunch and had to take our own lunch with us, that's when it would be probably a bit awkward if we're taking chapatis. But yeah, like I say, it's really good now that it's more acceptable. So what sort of things did you eat when you were younger instead of chapatis or rotis? Was there what other things, like South Indian food, did you say?
yeah, so ours was South Indian food. So rice was the staple with many things. Although a lot of South Indian diet is very vegetarian-based or lentil-based, we still had, chicken curry, lamb curry, or we call it goat curry that Amma would make. But if we had anything alternative to anything that resembles something flat, would be a dosa. And I know lots of people here now understand what a dosa is. It's, again, a lot of our breads are not made from wheat, but they're made from rice. So dosa is raw rice, the different dals. We have urad dal, and then fenugreek, methi, just for some flavor, water and a bit of salt. And sometimes they put a bit of chana dal, again, a different kind of dal, for texture and color. They soaked overnight, and it was fermented. That's the thing. I learned so much about fermentation. Everybody's talking about how healthy fermented foods are for you. We didn't realize that a lot of the things that grandmother was making, like a dosa, was or idli, will I talk about a little bit, were all fermented foods, and then they were cooked on a skillet. They're most soft, so you can have them flat, and you can have them with sambar. Have you heard of sambar?
Yeah,
Which is very sort of runny, sort of stewy, kind of runny stew that you have with some vegetables, or you could have it with coconut or tomato chutney. So that was our only thing I remember as a flatbread. But my auntie used to make chapatis. So I suppose we were appropriating it as well in some ways, because we were South Indian and chapati was not within our sort of food culture. Yeah, so we appropriated that.
People take things on, don't they, and change them. But going back to dosas, so a dosa, for people who haven't had one before, is like a big rolled up, I would say it's like a big crisp, would you say?
Yes, I agree. So you can have it in so many ways. So you can have something called a paper dosa, where you can have it really fine and crispy, and they would kind of make it into a cone, or they do it into a triangle, and then they serve it on a banana leaf or flat. Oh, delicious. Or you could have it with a filling. It's called a masala dosa, where they can fill it with potato filling, and then it's rolled up into a roll. So it's different ways of having a dosa. So it's a softer dosa, yeah.
So people in this country could get a dosa, and there's some famous places, aren't there, or restaurants? I don't know if...
Yes.
Which ones? I mean, I know there's one near me in Wolverhampton, called Dosa Hut, and a big shout out to Dosa Hut, because I tell you something, their food is amazing. It's the best place ever, and they do dosas, they do South Indian food, and they do the food that people are probably used to in this country when they go for Indian food, Indian restaurant, but their food is beautifully presented as well. And there's one you were mentioning
There's a really
the other day.
famous one. I mean, Chennai dosa. They have lots of outlets in this country, but they have an outlet in Malaysia, and I think they probably do in India as well.
I'm sure they have. I'm sure when I used to take students to India, we went to one on the Jampat Market. So I'm sure it's there. I'm going to have a look after this. But yeah, it was lovely. And it was really busy. And I think the one thing that students, they never had a dosa before. So for them, it was a lovely experience because having it on the banana leaf, having the samba with it, and it's like activity food, isn't it, as well?
Oh, it is, because when they serve you, it's obviously an open table. They serve it at the banana, and then they bring these little containers with the sambar and the chutneys, and people just help themselves, and then they take it away and put it at another table. So you shouldn't put your own spoon in there, and you eat with your fingers, obviously, as well. Sambar is very tasty. I think again, it's probably it's like, as I said, a lentil-based stew. It's got a lot of tamarind in it and sambar powder. So it's like nothing you've ever tasted before if you've never had it. But a lot of people do love it. It's not, it's not too spicy, but some of the tomato chutneys can be spicy. You're making me hungry now.
You know what? We're talking about this food, and I should have eaten beforehand. I was just thinking it's been a few hours since I've eaten, and I'm feeling hungry now as well. I think one of the things about these things with foods is that when they start becoming popular, and comes back to this thing of roti, chapati, calling it a flatbread, and I see these things on social media where things are just renamed or rebranded. And do you think it's because it becomes more acceptable once they're rebranded, so people will try it? Do you think that's why they do this?
I think perhaps you and I come from different places, really, in this. I mean, I don't think much about appropriation in that sense. And I think a lot of people would like to say, try something with a different name. And then people who want to try things, they'll say, oh, what is that? Is that dosa? What is this? And if people are into health foods, because as I've said, a lot of South Indian foods, they're gluten-free, they're vegan, easily digestible. So a lot of people do like that sort of food. So they will ask for it. And it's because it's not wheat-based, as you say, I don't know whether, it's people who've grown up in this country feel a sense of wanting to hang on to some of these things that belong to them. But it doesn't matter. It is food, and the more people share it, the more people love food. I think that's great. One of the funny things is, up north you could have chips with curry, curry sauce. I mean, if I never thought of it as appropriation when I first saw that. I just thought, interesting, I'll try the curry. It wasn't anything like my grandmother would have made. But lots of people did like it. It was their version of what they called a curry. I suppose in Malaysia we have a version of what we call pizza, and it's nothing like the pizza you'd get in Italy, but we love it. So there you go.
It's interesting about curry. You mentioned that because you've got the curry that you get in chip shops, as you say, fish and chip shops, and that's a very distinctive taste. It's not like a curry, like a Punjabi curry or an Indian curry, or you've got like Chinese versions of a curry as well, so chicken curry. And actually, each of them have a slightly different twist, and they're all lovely. I mean, I love food anyway, so.
I mean, what is the? I mean, I don't know the etymology of what curry is. What does it actually mean? What does curry actually mean? It's just a sauce, maybe that's what it means. But we call a lot of our things that grandmother or your mum would have made. Oh, mum's made chicken curry or this. It's just the dish, isn't it? It isn't anything specific. It's saying it's a stew or it's a sauce or something like that, maybe. Yeah.
We're going to have other episodes on food, I'm sure, because it's endless. There's so many different things we can talk about, and so many of our favourite restaurants, which we must mention because it's great that we've got this variety in the Midlands. We're so lucky. In terms of foods, that when you're younger, you mentioned some of the South Indian foods like Idli and other things like that. So what are those?
Right. So Idli, again, it's I suppose somebody Western would think it's a steamed rice cake. But it's not actually a cake. It's something savoury. So again, it's fermented rice and urad dal. They ground when mixed with water and left to ferment. And then it's steamed in these special molds. So they look like they come out molded. And then you can eat them with the same sort of things as curry or, with curries or sambars. So that's one thing. And then we've got something called idiyappam. String hoppers. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
String hoppers, idiyappam. They're very pretty because, again, it's finely milled, sort of roasted rice or red rice. Because if you come from Sri Lanka, you probably have red rice in it.
Yeah.
And so it's rice flour, water, salt again, smooth dough. It's very pliable. And then they put it into a special mold and they press it. And it comes up as little strings and you do little circular movements. And then they rest it on a little mat and then that's steamed. And then you can have that again. You can have that sweet or savory. When we were children, grandmother, our sweet thing was to have it with palm sugar and coconut, or savory just with the sorts of things that you'd have with the dosa. And the other thing that is we used to have that, we used to be so excited when grandmother used to make it, called puttu. Have you heard of puttu?
I've not heard of that, no.
Okay, so it's again ground rice, so white rice or red rice. And so it's layers of the rice and it's with coconut in layers and it's put into a specialized cylindrical steamer. But of course, nowadays you get them in metal or aluminium. My grandmother used to have a beautiful bamboo steamer. And at the bottom it had a little turban. And then you'd put it over a steamer and it steamed the whole thing with all that coconut in it. And then when it came out, they came out in little layers of coconut. And I tell you this, delicious. So you can have it savory or sweet. And as children, we used to love it sweet with some mashed up bananas. I'm just thinking of all these things. And I'm thinking of my grandmother making it because she put so much effort into all these things because she just didn't go and buy it. You know, the fermentation would have had to be done overnight. She worked so hard to cook these things. So much love had gone into making these wonderful dishes for us. So I'm thank you for asking me about them because it's brought back some lovely memories of grandmother cooking. And we would do our cooking. A lot of grandmother would do the pounding in a large wooden pestle and mortar outside under the house, as we called it, where it was just nice and cool. So you'd have wooden pestle mortars, when the piece of the trunk would be hauled out, and then they have this large sort of branch or something that was shaved, and it would drop it on it, to smash up the rice. Or you had the big stone pestle and mortar that they ground things on with rice with water. Wonderful bits of ancient equipment that you can actually feel that earth and air and environment and sweat and tears, and not tears but sweat and effort. Real effort's gone into making this, and we did appreciate it. I will say that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? About it's like making your own bread. I've a couple of attempts, and but yeah, chapati used to be made daily in Punjabi families, and that ritual of making chapatis, and I think it's quite nice. Like you say, everyone had their own rolling pin and things like that. They were probably passed down as well. It just reminded me, actually, Idli and those South Indian foods. The first time I tried them was in hotels in India. So in Delhi, I was like, what are these things? Never tried these things before. And so that was my first introduction to South Indian food. And
so from my viewpoint, you would have been trying it as a Westerner in some ways, wouldn't you? Because in your cuisine that your mother used to make for you, or your grandmother or your aunties, you wouldn't have had anything like that.
No,
so I'm just wondering how you sort of
for Asian food for breakfast, we'd have the only sort of Asian food we'd have is like maybe parathas, which are sort of chapatis but folded in with butter, very calorific. So we might have those, but on a Sunday because they're time consuming to make. But otherwise we just have cereal and things like that. So just the general things that most people would have. But yeah, I think one of the interesting things is that people think it's really weird when you have curry for breakfast. And I think, but that's the staple in India, all those people having curry for breakfast. It's the thing that you would have. So spicy breakfast is not
I find that interesting. We had, very tasty to have dosa for breakfast. But people have scrambled eggs, avocado, smoked salmon these days, kippers, kedgeree. That's all spicy. So it's not that unusual. I suppose it's a viewpoint. So from where I come from, breakfasts are varied in that sense. And a lot of Chinese, the Hokkien and Cantonese community would have noodles and rice porridge, really healthy.
And what made me, I thought what was interesting for me was I didn't realise the brown sauce, so HP brown sauce, there are other brown sauces available, but brown sauce is made of tamarind paste.
Yes, it is. You're right.
all this time we were having like those sauces with samosas. You'd have like a tamarind sauce that comes with it, and yet it's the same thing. It's just brown sauce, obviously done in a different way. So,
Yes.
but yeah, interesting, isn't it? How these things are sort of in other ingredients, but if you knew it as something else, well, it might put you off, it might put you on. I'm not sure.
I think it's us, because I suppose us chatting about, people listening, it might make them more aware that a lot of the ingredients that we have used in Asian cooking is actually used a lot in cooking in the West. I mean, kedgeree, I think, is a dish that was cooked, was invented in India, but I don't know the actual history of it. What was created for perhaps somebody from the East India Company by one of his cooks or something, and brought back over here. But obviously that addition of raisins and things, sweeter things. I mean, I do make kedgeree, but I put nice curry powder in it, and nice bit of smoked haddock, peas, curry powder, curry leaves in it. And it's delicious. So you can have it for breakfast, and you have it's full of protein. You can have eggs as well. So, but lots of people do have it as breakfast over here, don't they?
Yeah.
And I suppose bacon and sausages are savoury foods, aren't they, as well? Yeah.
They are, yeah, but it's slightly different to having a spicy, I think, savoury breakfast. I think that's the difference.
I
think
see what you
having
mean.
a sort of chili dal or something like that, or say vegetable curry with a chapati or a flatbread. Anyway, so I think there's lots of things we could talk about food, but I think just today I just wanted to talk about flatbread and roti and how it's being used in social media, and there's this whole craze at the moment of making their own. And actually, when you think about the ingredients that are in a chapati, a roti, flatbread, call it what you will, so simple. Whereas if you buy something from the shops, it's so processed. And when you realise it takes you a few minutes to make, if you've got some flour, some yogurt is what a lot of them use, so natural yogurt with the flour.
I'm going to pick up a point there, because if you're making it with yogurt, would that be South Asian? South Indian?
Naan bread.
It wouldn't.
Yes.
Would naan bread be made from yogurt? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of it's not South Asian food necessarily, but yogurt is used in foods, so it could be.
Yeah, so it's just interesting that I mean, for me, a chapati, it's that flour, white flour or brown flour, and water and salt, and then you, just like the poem, you knead it, you put it on very hot skillet and let it puff up. It's very simple, isn't it, to make? But then it's also really simple to buy, and there are very nice versions of it in very nice supermarkets. I remember buying some paratha in the frozen section of one of the high street supermarkets, and it was very tasty. And it was some of my Indian friends who said, "Oh, just buy that; it's really tasty." And lo and behold, super tasty, and I didn't have to make it.
I know which one you're on about as well. It's the Shana paratha. Is that the one?
Yes,
Shana
very tasty. It's very good.
Oh my God, yes, exactly the same thing. First time someone said to me, they said, you've got to get these parathas. They are the best. And I couldn't believe it. It was like perfect every time.
Yes, and it wasn't too much effort to make it. Whereas I do think it. I know we're talking about breads, but the accompaniments to it are probably nicer if you make them. Whereas they can produce very nice breads.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's of course none of it's going to be as lovely as what your mum would have made or my auntie would have made, because it's fresh, and somebody's put some real love into it.
Yeah. But if you want something quick for lunch and you want something like a paratha, Shana paratha, there's also another one called Humza. Have you tried that one?
No, I haven't tried that one. Yes.
Both of them are equally good. So yes, we'll have to try them next time we meet.
Because I think parathas are a bit more. A bit more effort needs to be put into making them, because they're layered a bit more, aren't they? Whereas a chapati, I've made chapati. I've never been as successful as making them as tasty as my aunties, or probably as your mum would have made them. Yeah. But it's a little effort. But I've made what I would call flatbread with yogurt. Okay. I've had an enormous disaster with one that I tried to make with my eldest daughter. I don't know how much I put. There was flour all over the table. She was laughing. Her little one was laughing.
Creating memories, Sundari. That's what you're doing.
Yes, well, I don't know. It was,
you might have been starving afterwards, but you created memories.
Yes, we did create memories. But my second daughter, she cooks and she makes delicious flatbread.
We must get your daughter on the show. I want to know what recipes she makes.
Yes, her flatbread's very good. It's made with yogurt. It's delicious. Yeah.
Okay, we won't start off by calling it flatbread because we don't want to get into an argument.
No. But
we'll just ask her what her favourite recipes are.
This bread that you make, this
thing
you
tell us all about bread and other things. Oh, but we must eat before we do that show. So anyway, we're at the end of our time. So again, time's gone really quickly, but it's been lovely chatting to you. So what is there one thing that you think from your childhood that it would be really nice if people could try, and you think, oh yeah, that'd be lovely if they tried that, and they would love it, hopefully?
I think because I've been here that long, and because there is Chennai dosa, I think dosa is far more readily available in this country. So if everybody could try a dosa in its different variations, as a paper dosa, like a cone, or as a triangle, or have it with a curry soft or with a masala, that'd be great. That'd be a start, because some of the other things are harder to find. But if you can find a dosa, I think there are lots of places serve dosa now. Please go and try dosa. You're going to love it. And please remember that it's from South India.
I thought you were going to say, please remember, Sundari recommended it.
No, I can't take that.
I mean, you have recommended it to people.
You've said it, I will.
Yeah, if people haven't tried it, I mean, it is, and it looks impressive as well, doesn't it? I think it's nice when you're with a table of people.
And for the people who, for the people looking for healthy things, remember, it's a fermented food. Okay, it's gluten-free. Yeah. It's vegan, and it's easily digestible. So there's lots of positives going for it, and it's got, as we said, bits of dal in it as well. Yeah. Very healthy food. Yeah.
And for me, this isn't from my childhood, but parathas I do like. They're flatbreads, and they are, they're very calorific, as I say, and they take a while to make. And my mum's parathas are the best. But if you haven't got my mum's parathas to hand, the best thing to have is Shana paratha, because anyone can get those wherever you are in the country. You can order them from Tesco's, Ocado, Sainsbury's. They're everywhere. And the thing is, you can make them and have that experience at home. So if you haven't got an Indian restaurant nearby, try it, because I'll tell you something, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Well, I think as we've come to a close, my tummy's rumbling, and I'm thinking where the nearest supermarket is. I might be able to go and grab a paratha. They're delicious even on their own.
Exactly. So, we could go on forever, but yes, I'm going to go and have something, a snack to eat now as well. Anyway, lovely chatting to you, Sundari, and I'll catch you again soon.
Yes, bye.
Take care.
Chai and Chat.